Hello and welcome to Bringing Education Home. I'm Herb.
And I'm Cristina, and together we bring you experts and ideas to help grow healthy, happy, successful families that are both inside.
And outside the box. If you like the show, be sure to follow Cristina on Facebook.
And please leave us a like review on your favorite podcast platform.
Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Cristina Rodrigues. Cristina is a certified positive discipline educator specializing in early childhood and is the founder of Changing Parenting. Cristina helps parents of preschoolers aged 3 to 6 who want to gentle parent but often feel judged and unsupported, and reassures parents that they don't have to be perfect. Cristina gives parents the tools to be able to raise their children with kindness instead of fear, while simultaneously focusing on the self-compassion and the knowledge that being a good parent 51% of the time is already amazing. Welcome, Cristina. This sounds like a fabulous topic today. It is a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, and hello to everyone who's listening.
Awesome. When we have these conversations, we even look back at our parenting and it's like, man, if we would have had some of the information that is out and available now, is so readily available, our parenting may have looked differently. I think we did a pretty good job, but there's definitely things that can always be improved. And so helping our audience, helping our families with ideas of how to improve their parenting, or maybe get an idea that is just one more thing that they can do that helps bring their family together and be close, is amazing. So thank you for being here. So why this passion? Why this importance about talking about gentle parenting, and what does it mean to you?
Yeah, actually, I didn't know anything about gentle parenting before I became a mom. I think that most of us, we are raised in a way that it's just like, one day when you get to be a parent, a lightning strikes you and you just know everything. And what you don't know, you will learn as you do it. And yeah, kids just raise themselves. Kind of like that, isn't it? Like that we grow up with that idea. And when I became pregnant and I started worrying about like what crib to buy and what, like all those things, that nesting phase, I started freaking out because I was like, oh my God, there's so many things you have to know. There's sudden infant death syndrome, and there is, all these things. And I didn't know any of these things. And I really thought you spend your whole life learning so many things that are in the end very useless. And these things that are so important, because I truly believe that being a parent is the most important job for mankind, because we are raising the future of mankind. And no one prepares us for this, and we are just supposed to do it, whatever. It's like if you want to drive a car, you will, take a driver's license, and you need to have a driver's license to drive a car. But you can just be a parent, which is such a harder job than driving a car. And I just found it all this, and I started reading a lot about parenting. And at the time I was just pregnant, and I was like, I don't need this right now, but I kept it in my brain. Mm-hmm. And I read a book that I recommend everyone to read. It's by Dr. Laura Merkham. I always forget her name. I don't know if you know it. It's called Peaceful Parents, Happy Kids. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's a great book, especially to read when you're pregnant, because it already gives you that idea of how children evolve and their developmental phases, and the impact that parenting has on children, and how we can parent in a different way. So I was like, one day I want to learn more about this. And when my son was about 8 months, and those phases where he's throwing things on the floor and you're just going crazy all the time, and there's food everywhere around your house, and I started being like, oh, I need to learn more. I need a little help, because I don't know how to do this by myself. So I started learning, and I learned just for myself, actually. But I started doing course after course after course, and I was doing actually certification courses, even though I didn't really wanted to use them professionally at the time. But I did want to dig deep and really learn all the things. And I just did one after the other. And eventually I was like, I think that this is my calling. This is what I want to do with my life, because I really believe in this, and I want to continue submerged in this, because when I'm teaching, I'm also learning. It's not just me. I really learn from other people also, and I want to continue in this, and I want to continue learning. And I decided this is, I really believe that being a mom is my calling, is the most important job I'll ever have. And I want to do the best I can. So I want to continue learning, and I want to share what I learn with other people. So that's what brought me here.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. I got so much out of that, and so many little tips and tricks. Like, you can't do it on your own. You don't just suddenly decide, oh, I want to do this, and suddenly, boom, there's all the knowledge that I need. So getting coaching, getting classes, getting help is so important, especially with parenting, because, anybody can become a parent, but to actually learn and to know how to do stuff, that takes so much work. And that's why, so many of the people that we talk to are communication experts, because communication is such a key in all of this as well. So yeah, that's really great the way you tied that all together. And I love how you started, and it's like after a while, like, oh, I'm doing all of this for me. And then it's like, wow, you know what? I've got so much now that I can start sharing this with other people. And that's the
Yeah.
hero's journey. That's the going out and slaying the dragon and then coming back and sharing your stories. So you're a hero. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm not a hero. I'm also imperfect. I think all parents are imperfect. And I think that one day when my son is big, he will also be like, oh, my mom screwed me up, because we all screw up our kids. It's just inevitable, because we are imperfect. We are human beings. It's part of being human. And I think that's why I talk so much about self-compassion. And I think self-compassion is so important, because when we lose that idea that we need to be perfect parents, first of all, we enjoy parenting more. And second, we are modeling to our children that they also don't have to be perfect. And so we are not setting them up for failure, right? Because anyone who wants to be perfect is just setting themselves up for failure.
Yeah. And I absolutely agree with that. I don't think we never intentionally set to mess up our kids. And hopefully they won't say that later in life, that, oh yeah, my mom and dad messed me up. But you're right, by being compassionate and by showing them how to be compassionate as well, then they start understanding. So then it's like, oh, well, it wasn't this that messed me up, or wasn't this that messed me up. Oh, I can learn from this situation and make things better. So I love tying it all in, that, we aren't perfect. We will make mistakes, but being a super important role model of how to handle those mistakes and how to be compassionate, like you said, is so super important. Exactly.
Yeah, and what you were saying about the different things, like sometimes many of us, we have a hard time saying, my parents did some things wrong, because we don't want to disrespect our parents, because we love our parents. And there are many things that our parents gave us that we want to pass along, and we are passing along to our children, and we really love those values, all those things, right? That's what makes us a family, and that's those roots we have. But it's also okay to say, my parents are also human beings, and they are also imperfect, and there were also some things that they did that were not the best, and I want to do different. And this is not disrespecting your parents. This is okay. It's about, evolving mankind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We did that quite a lot. My parents actually used to come over and watch us parent our kids, and they were like, wow, you did so much better than we did, because they knew they weren't perfect. And so yeah, some of the ways that we saw, it's like, wow, I didn't like this when I was a kid, so I'm going to be different as a parent. Sometimes though, that does cause other issues, because it's like you go too far and you go way far the other way. So we're what's called Gen X. We were both born in 1970. Ooh, I aged you. Sorry.
Don't age me.
And so we're called the forgotten generation. We're like the first generation where both of our parents worked early, so we were left alone a lot. We were the feral generation. So we grew up a lot on our own, and our parents weren't in the home all the time and didn't know how to deal with this. And so life was changing a lot when we came about. So now there's so many parents that from that generation that almost became helicopter parents, that they had to make everything just right for their kids and make none of the mistakes that their parents made, and created a whole new set of mistakes that the next generation then had to unwind.
Yeah, I think it will always be like that, right? Because we are always every generation will make different mistakes. It's just I'm what people call the Xennial. So I was born in 83. So it's like right when it was changing.
Yeah.
So I was also raised in that what they call free range kids, where you just go outside and come back at night.
Uh-huh.
And I think that it has its advantages. It made us who we are. And nowadays the world is also different than it was back then, right? So I think in many ways it was easier to parent in the ages of our parents than it is for us, I think, because nowadays there are so many things you have to. When I was a kid, there were no seatbelts. It was just okay. Everyone was like 10 kids in the back of a car, and it's okay. And nowadays you have all these child seats, and they are sometimes really complicated to set up. Right? You need an engineering degree just to put a child seat in the car, And it's just so many things that are required of us all the time.
Yes.
And the same way that we can think like, when my parents did what they did, it was because with the knowledge they had at the time and the resources they had at the time, and what it was a normal thing at the time, and it was okay. And I feel compassion for my parents. I don't think that they were bad people, but now we have different knowledge. We know other things. We know that that you need a safety belt in the car. You need all those things, right? So this is not saying that they did it wrong, they were bad parents, but I have to say, if they were doing those things today, they would probably go to jail, right? Because you can no longer leave a kid inside the car when you go to the supermarket, right? Those type of things. Right. So there's so much pressure nowadays on parents that are it's just like, oh, so now you're just supposed to do all these things. And no one says, good job, I know this is hard. It's, and you have to do that to yourself, right? We have to be the ones patting ourselves in the back and be like, I'm doing a great job. This is really hard and I'm doing great.
So before I say this, I want to clarify that this is a joke, but I used to say that, we used to challenge our kids, and it was a challenge for us to stay alive. I mean, we drank from the hose, we didn't wear seatbelts. and now our kids are so protected that the dumb ones are growing up and they're being old enough to breed, and so then they have more dumb kids. So
you're being so bad.
So instead of survival of the fittest, it's like we're making sure that everybody survives, and sometimes that dumb gene gets passed along. So that totally a joke there, totally a joke.
No, but I think what you were saying about overcompensating, I do think that happens in the sense that nowadays many people are ending up creating entitled kids, not just because they are, overprotecting them and not giving them the tools to have responsibility and all that, but also because many of us, because we were not raised, we didn't learn how to deal with our emotions in a healthy way. Now, as parents, in the middle of all these pressures, because nowadays being a parent is so much more pressure than it was before. There's so many things that are required of us, especially moms, that many of us feel, I cannot deal with this. I don't know healthy ways to deal with this. And nowadays there are these things called tablets. Let me just give you a tablet because I need time to relax. I need time. I cannot deal with this. And this goes there in between the negligent parenting and the permissive parenting, because no one is perfect and we all do mistakes, right? But I feel like we are going a lot in that direction, and a lot of it comes from the fact that we don't know how to deal with our own emotions in healthy ways. So when our child is having a tantrum, we just cannot deal with it. We are just overwhelmed immediately. We don't have that resilience, that emotional resilience, because we are taught that whenever we feel something, we have to deal with it by ourselves. We cannot ask for help. So we were taught that way. And therefore, when our child is having a tantrum, it's just too much for us and we cannot deal with it. And we just use the first thing that is available to us, the pacifier of the modern days, which is the tablet.
Right. Exactly. So what is something that you would tell a parent? Let's go into that a little bit. Let's get some tips and tricks out there to our parents. So what do you share with parents when they come and they share that with you? I'm overwhelmed when my child is having this tantrum, and so I just want to get them to be quiet. What do you tell them? How should they, or how could they handle it differently?
I would say always the first thing is self-regulation, because you cannot access the rest. You can know all these things, right? You can know, like, how to deal with the child, even if you know all the tools, right? Even if you have everything, when your emotions are high, you cannot access the rational part of your brain. It's just the way it is.
Right.
That's why when we are very emotional, sometimes we say and do things we later regret, right? Because it's just we cannot access that rational part of our brain. It's just not there for us.
Yeah.
So if we want to access that rational part, first we need to bring our emotions down. And this we do through self-regulation. And this is something we need to practice. It's the same as, going to the gym or something like that. You need to practice in order for it to become easier.
Mhm.
So what I always advise people to do is to practice, breathing, meditation, just simple things throughout the day. Whenever you see that your emotions are going high, immediately you stop, you close your eyes so that you don't have external stimulation, anything else, and you just take 2 or 3 deep breaths. And if you feel really overwhelmed, you can tell your child, mommy needs a little bit of time right now. And you just go 5 minutes to the bathroom. And if you explain, and this is actually a very good thing to model to our children, that sometimes we need time alone. So we can tell them that sometimes when we are okay, right? Not when we are mad. When we can say it's normal, sometimes when we are mad, we need a little bit of time by ourselves. And you can create a quiet corner for them, for instance, where you can tell them, what do you like to have here when you are mad? What helps you? Would you like to have here? Maybe, there are those windmills to blow on. That's a great thing to give little kids because it helps them with the breathing also.
Yeah.
And things like that. And you can tell them, and my quiet corner is the bathroom. So sometimes I need to go to the bathroom for 5 minutes and it has nothing to do with you. It's just me. I need time to cool down. Everyone needs time to cool down sometimes. This way, when you are in the middle of all those emotions and you go to the bathroom, your child is not going to bang on the door, because they know that this is your quiet time. They already know that. So this is something. And if you are in the middle of, all the people out there in the supermarket or wherever, I think it's even more challenging, right? Because on top of feeling overwhelmed with our emotions, we also feel judged, and feeling judged as parents makes us really do very bad things because we do things that we wouldn't do if we were not feeling judged. This happens so often, right?
Yeah.
We do things to please other people or not to feel judged anymore. And we need to be able to concentrate on our children completely. And this is actually a sort also of mindfulness, right? Because you just go on your down on your child's level and you look at your child in the eyes, and like this, you are completely focused on your child, and you manage to, space out of everyone else.
Yeah.
So this is something that is really helpful. So you first need to bring your emotions down. Other ways that are helpful are, for instance, hugging your child, because hugging releases endorphins and it just makes you feel better. And your child will also calm down. So it's good for both of you. And you can hug without saying anything until you are both more relaxed. And then when you are relaxed, or not relaxed, but not with your emotions
Right.
not as high, then you can start with the second part, which is connecting to your child. So we always have to connect before we can correct, because the same thing, your child also needs to bring their emotions down before you can access the rational part of their brains.
Yeah.
So connecting with your child starts always with empathy, because that's all that every human being wants. It's empathy, it's knowing that the other person understands them. So start by saying, I know that you are upset. And naming the emotions is also very important, because children between the ages of 3 and 6, they don't master their emotions yet, and they don't have often the vocabulary.
Right.
Actually, many of us as adults also don't have the vocabulary for many emotions, because when you ask people what you feel, they only know how to say sad, happy, right? But yeah, you just name the emotion you are feeling. I know that I realize it looks like you're feeling really sad because you wanted to stay here and play longer, and now you're disappointed that you have to leave. And you just, hug your child. And you don't keep repeating this, by the way, because sometimes people keep repeating the same thing, and that's not good. Because it's the same as, like, imagine your boss was really mean to you, and you're talking to a friend and you're like, look at that guy. Oh my God, look at what he did. And if your friend says, oh my God, that's really awful. What a guy. Oh, then you're like, oh, this person understands me. And you start feeling more relaxed. But if that person keeps saying, what on earth, then you start getting again. So it's the same with children. You just say it once, and then they start calming down, and you hug them until they are feeling better. Or sometimes they don't want to be hugged. For instance, if they are feeling angry, very often they are very with a lot of energy or something. They want to distance, but you stay there next to them so that they know that you are there. And when you see that you start talking in a lower voice, because when you lower your voice, your shouts like instinctively will also start calming down. And when you see that your child is already calmer, that's when you start with the correction part. So you say, yeah, I know that you wanted to stay, and we have to leave because this and that, or I know that you are upset, and we don't throw our toys on the floor because otherwise we break the toys. And this is another way. And then you should go into the action part. So the healthy way to deal with that. So you say, for instance, you are angry. Would you like to run up and down here, jump up and down, or run around to let your energy out? Or shall I chase you? Or you can also redirect their attention to something else. Like, shall we go and do something else? So just try now. So it's always,
but not the tablet.
not the tablet, yeah. Although I must say, I also give my son sometimes screen time. I'm not perfect. I think I don't judge because I also do it. And it's important to know that this has really a big impact on children's brain because it's an addiction. And especially small children, their brain is not developed enough to be able to deal with addiction. So it has a much bigger or worse impact than it has on an adult.
Absolutely. I absolutely love the way you were talking through those different steps. And I hope our parents are maybe even taking a few notes or anything. But one of the things I really wanted to point out was that whenever you name the emotion, I loved how you were just saying it one time and not dwelling on that emotion over and over. And another suggestion I would have is make sure that you're using emotions that are appropriate for the child. So, a child who's only 2 or 3 probably doesn't have anxiety. So I wouldn't use that term with them because that's probably not what's going on. They might be upset, they might be mad, but oh, you're showing me anxiety. I'm not sure that would be appropriate, right? Or, oh, you look really depressed. Those are adult terms. And I would really hope that parents would really keep it to this surface level emotions until they get older, until you can actually see like a pattern of behavior or something.
Yeah, and
Does that make sense?
sometimes those vocabulary, even though we didn't have them when we were growing up, there was a lot of that same wisdom there. Like, oh, if you're mad, count to 10 before you say something.
Yep.
And take a deep breath before you launch into that. That was something that I used to do when my children would do something and I would get angry. It'd be like, okay, I need to go away and be calm. So you're in trouble because you did something wrong, but I'm going to go calm down, and then we're going to discuss the consequences. So instead of it being a punishment while you're angry, because if you make a declaration while you're angry, well, then you're also punishing yourself. So if, you're grounded for a month, well, then you also are grounded because then you have to be there with that child to make sure they're grounded. So when you're mad, you're like, okay, we need to separate, and then we'll come back and talk about the consequences of our actions once we're calm. So that was something that we did that seemed to work really well. And then the child would have time to think about what was going on, what they did, and then we would ask them what they think what their consequences should be for the action that they took. And so it wasn't, oh, you are in trouble. It's like those actions weren't appropriate. So what are the consequences for those actions?
Yeah, actually, in positive discipline, we don't use like consequences except for natural consequences. So, for instance, one natural consequence would be if your child says, I don't want to wear my jacket, and then they don't wear the jacket and they are cold, that's a natural consequence. So they learn, okay, next time I need to bring my jacket because otherwise I'll be cold. But when we use consequences as an alternative for, like, as a synonym for punishments, what we are creating is actually this situation where it's your child behaves a certain way because they are afraid that something will happen. And this will always be relative to a third person. So if you are not present, for instance, your child does not have the incentive to do that action because there is no fear of repercussions, because as long as you don't find out that they did that, it would be okay. So what we want to create instead is internal motivation, is creating this intrinsic internal need or want to do something a certain way because they see the value of doing that. So they will do it regardless of whether you're there or not. And they will actually understand why they are doing it. So that's the idea of internal motivation versus external validation. So we don't, in positive discipline, we don't use rewards or punishments because of that reason.
I like that. Yeah, because I think a lot of people have lost that internal motivation or that intrinsic feeling of, oh, I'm doing the right thing. Instead, there is so much external validation. And if we turn ourselves inwards and know that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing because it's good for us and good for the people around us, then that's hopefully a better motivation for them to continue that action.
Yeah, that's also one of the reasons why we don't focus on the outcome. So we don't say good job. Of course, we all do, right? Because we are all parents and we are so proud and whatever. But we try not to say good job or, like to praise our child, and instead focus on appreciation for their trying. So because this creates a growth mindset. They are happy that they are trying. So it's really good that I'm trying, and it doesn't matter the outcome. If I manage to achieve it or not, it doesn't matter. Because actually there was this study that I found very interesting where they divided kids into two groups. And one group, they told the kids, this test was really hard and you did it. Great job. You're so smart. And the other group, they told the kids, this was really hard and you kept on doing. That's great. You didn't give up. And then they told the kids, there's going to be a harder test now. Do you want to take it? And the kids who were praised and were said, did great job. They didn't want to do it because they were afraid of failing. They were afraid they weren't going to be good enough. They wanted that to stay the good students. The other kids, they wanted because they wanted the challenge. For them, it was about the challenge, the trying the things. And that's a growth mindset. And that's what we want to give to our kids. So, of course, we all going to say, hey, you're good. Oh, you're so smart, right? Because we are parents and we are just like that. But we should try and consciously really focus on the trying. Oh, I can see that's really hard and you're not giving up. Wow, that's amazing. You must be so proud of yourself. So that they have this sense of self-worth also. So that's really important.
And that's actually one of the things I would do when I was in the classroom is I would, let the kids know that I was appreciative or proud of their behavior or what they did. But then I would almost always turn it around and say, now, how do you feel about that? Do you feel a sense of pride inside? Do you feel good inside for doing what you did? So I always tried to make it kind of a double thing, letting them know that they were appreciated and, proud of, but also how do you feel? So that's a tip for parents, because we're going to gush over our kids. We love our kids, right? But also turn it back, make sure that they know that they're proud of themselves too.
So I have a question. So we were talking about natural consequences instead of a third-party consequence. So there are so many consequences for doing stuff in our culture that are dependent on third parties. And sometimes the consequences are very much delayed. So they do something wrong and it could be a very, very long time before the consequences catch up with them. So for one instance would be being dishonest. So you start catching your child lying. So how do you get through to them that there are consequences for being dishonest if that dishonesty doesn't catch up with them for a very long time, and you need to make them understand sooner that there are consequences for that kind of action? Where do you go with that? Because I had a really big problem with my children weren't liars, but I have a problem with people being dishonest with me. That's like a very big trigger for me. So
Yeah.
so when
the
my
first
children
thing-
lied, it's like, ooh, that's like bad. There are definitely going to be consequences for lying to me. So where do we go with that?
Something like that.
I think that the first thing is like when you said, I get very triggered about with this. This is something we need to work on first. Like, why am I getting triggered about this? What happened in my childhood, throughout my life, the way I was raised, the interactions I had with other people that made me be like this? Because when we are triggered, and Dr. Shefali, I don't know if you guys know it, she's the creator of conscious parenting. She said something that I found it mind blowing. She said, children are not here to trigger us. They really wish we didn't have any triggers that, because when we are triggered, what happens is that we overreact. So something that maybe your child did that might not have been intentional or was not such a big thing, you will make it a huge deal because it's triggering you, because for you it has a very big meaning. So it's really important that we always work first on our triggers. Why is this triggering me? Where is this coming from? We have self-compassion. I am feeling this way because when I was growing up, this and this happened to me. It left a mark in me. And because of this, this is normal. Anyone in my situation would be feeling this way. It's normal. And now I'm a grown-up person and I can change because we can all change, right? And the second thing is to realize what are the developmental stages of children. So for instance, very young children in the ages of 3 and 6, they are starting to develop their imagination. So very often what we mistaken for lying is just their, healthy developmental stage, that they are just imagining things. So it's important that we take that into consideration. What can my child do at each stage, right? And then the other thing we have to do when it's an older child also, right, that already understands the concept of lying and everything, is trying to understand, why are they lying? What is behind? Because every challenging behavior has a need behind it. And it's our job as parents to use that as an opportunity to teach them a life skill that they will need in the future. So you had a need, and because you have an underdeveloped brain, you chose to lie because, maybe you saw someone else do it, or doesn't matter. There was something that made you lie, but you had this need behind. So this is not an appropriate way to deal with this need. Instead, this is the appropriate way to deal with this need. But first, you need to find out what the need is. So you need to talk to your child and you need to try and understand, where is this behavior coming from? What is happening here?
That makes sense. Yeah. And yeah, it makes sense. At the same time, like, I don't know, if it becomes a pattern, something that they just are not even like tying into, oh, this was the need, what you were saying, then, maybe there does have to be a change in how you deal with it because of they're not getting the concept that they're not handling it the right way.
And I believe that if the child is not understanding, it's because you're using the wrong tools. So you're not getting into them. You're not really understanding the need. You're not being able to go behind where is this coming from? And you're just attacking the surface with the wrong tools. So it's not getting there. And you need to keep trying different things because not everything works always at the same time. So we always need to try and find out where is this coming from. So in positive discipline, we have like different reasons why a child misbehaves, right? And these are just very general reasons because in the end, it's all very personalized, right? Because every child is different and everything. But there are many reasons. For instance, is this a power struggle? Is your child feeling that they need to enter a power struggle with you? That you are doing something and they have to enter the power struggle, and you have to remember they have an underdeveloped brain. So they are not doing this because they are mean persons or they are becoming deviant or they are going to be awful human beings when they grow up. This is age appropriate. It's their underdeveloped brain trying to find ways to deal with a situation that they don't fully understand. And this applies even to teenagers and even young adults. So we need to find what's happening. Is this a reason because of a power struggle? If it is, maybe your child feels that they don't have any control in their life. For instance, parents that are very like helicopter parents that want to decide every single thing for their child. This may create that power struggle, that the child feels the need to, I want to do something. No, it's me, and they cannot express it in a healthy way because their brain is underdeveloped. And it's our job as parents to teach them how to express this in a healthy way. Okay, I can see that you are feeling very, angry with all this. And you lied. And lying is not good because it creates this mistrust. It creates this breakage in relationships. So I will have a hard time to trust you next time. And, I will always feel a little, is she telling the truth? Is this, so you don't want this, right? We want to be connected. We are family. So I can see that you need a little bit, you want to decide things, and that's okay. And that's healthy. So let's think here, what would you like to decide? And in positive discipline, not with small children. So ages 3 to 6 is too early, but older kids, there's something that we have, it's called family meetings, where once a week we meet and everyone brings to the table a subject that they want to talk about. And we all discuss it like, healthy human beings. Yes. And this is one of those things that you can bring to the weekly meeting. Or you can just talk one-on-one with your child and be like, what if from now on you start deciding, for instance, let's say an 8-year-old, you can decide every week what we eat for dinner for a whole week, for instance, or you can start deciding what brand of cereals we buy, or whatever you find that it's okay for you in every tiny little thing, because it's the little things. Sometimes we as parents think it's the big things, but it's the little things. And, helping your child choose, for instance, I always let my son decide what clothes he wants to wear, what shoes he wants to wear, these are little things that tell a child, I am, capable, I am capable of making my own decisions. And again, this is just one of the causes of challenging behavior, but there are many, and that's why it's so important. That's why, for instance, if you do this and the cause for the behavior is not power struggle and it's something else, it will not work, and you need to try and find out still. And that's why sometimes it's easier when you are working with a parent educator who can look at it and try and help you go there. But I think that connection is always the key. So even if you don't want to, dive deep into gentle parenting at all, if you just start by connecting, that will already create a big difference.
Absolutely. And one of those things that you were just mentioning was choices, is like, in, a lot of the parenting classes and stuff that I did do was, if you are going to give your child a choice, make sure it's a choice that you can handle, because you can't take that choice away once you do it. So if you're going to allow them to plan out meals, make sure you're willing to accept what they plan out, right? Because it's you can't take the choice back away from them after you give it to them. So give them choices that you can handle.
Yeah, speaking of choices, this was something that we and I kind of disagreed on. So I would ask my children to do something. I was like, hey, can you do this? And if they said no, then I did it because I gave them that choice.
He asked the question.
And she would always go, hey, will you do this? And they would say no. And she goes, oh, that wasn't really a question. When I ask you to do something, you have to do it. So this was a differing between. So when I asked them, if they said no, then it's like, oh man, I asked instead of told them. So then I ended up my consequences for that where I did it. But I gave the children the choice, and if I gave them a choice, then I had to honor that.
But you can still give a choice. For instance, let's say you want your child to go to the car. You can say, now it's time to go to the car. Would you like to run to the car, or would you like to, chase me? Do you want to go in front of me? So you're giving choices, but both choices will give you the outcome you want. That's the trick. Yeah.
That is the trick. Yep. So you have to be a little bit thinking ahead on those kinds of things. Well, Cristina, this has been such a wonderful, wonderful conversation. And we really appreciate you being here and sharing with our audience and everything. Can you let them know how to get a hold of you in case they want to go a little bit deeper in this concept?
Yeah, so I have a group on Facebook called Parents of Preschoolers, and anyone is listening that has a child between the ages of 3 and 6, you are welcome to join us. And if you don't have a child, or if you have a child in different ages, you can follow me on Facebook or on Instagram under Changing Parenting.
Excellent. And that will, of course, be in the show notes as well. So you'll be able to click on the links down below and find that Facebook group and find Cristina there. So as we're kind of wrapping up, I really want to encourage parents and people who are listening, our audience, to take all of these nuggets, all of these things that we've talked about throughout the show, and don't just put them in your back pocket, but actually bring them out and use them. Make sure that you're taking something and putting it into action, just like Cristina said. Start with the connection or start with showing compassion. Just get started so that your relationship with your child and your family can be a little bit better every single day.
Yes, and I wish, growing up, I'd like to thank you, because as we were growing up with our kids, having someone with this information would have been really helpful. To be able to get coaching, again, like you said, parents just think that, oh, here's your kids, now go do it.
Magically happens.
And it magically happens, and it doesn't. And we just were out there, the way we were raised, we just did the best we could without necessarily going out and getting help. So the fact that you identified that need, that you actually started doing that for yourself, and then you got to a place where you actually started doing that for others, you are a hero. You are out there, you saw a problem, and instead of just complaining about it or telling other people about it, you are setting out there to fix it. You are doing something about it, and that is a rare and a beautiful treat, and you are a hero. And so thank you for being you. Thank you for putting yourself out there, because putting yourself out there puts you not out there just for people like me to praise you, but also for people like, oh, blah, 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 blah. So thank you for going out there. Thank you for changing the world. Thank you for being you.
Oh, that's so encouraging. Thank you so much. And thanks a lot for having me here. It was lovely talking to you. And yeah, thanks a lot.
You are very, very welcome. All right, audience, it has been a wonderful show. I hope you do have those gold nuggets in your pocket and that you're going to use them. And thank you, Cristina. Thank you, audience, for being with us. And don't forget to leave us a like or review on the podcast, or better yet, connect with one of our experts and let them know that you found value in what they shared, or come visit us at Vibrant Family Education. All right, everybody. Talk to you later. Thanks. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Hello, and welcome to Bringing Education Home. I'm Herb.
And I'm Cristina. And together we bring you experts